Okay, so why am I down here? Well, I'm down here because the alternator on the truck, 2004 Nissan Frontier 4-cylinder, um, the alternator spontaneously decided to go kaput. It actually started yesterday morning when I started it up to leave for work. It started crying, so to speak. And then by today, I started to get random accessories and dash lights failing. So here I am. So it's kind of hard to see up in here now because the lighting is bad. And there's this stupid little plastic diaper in the way that I've got to pull out. But I'm going to get up in here in a second. I have to go at it from underneath because that's the easiest way to access the thing, because there's just a whole bunch of, I think this is a pain in the butt. You should see all the crap that's on the front of the engine above the alternator that I have to work on. Of course, before I even thought about sliding up underneath here, I have the jack, or the car up on jack stands. Jack stand there, and you can't see it, but back behind that passenger rear tire, Mason says hi, by the way. Behind that passenger side rear tire, there's a chock. And before I raced the truck, I put the parking brake on, and before I got out of the truck, I made sure it was in first gear. So lots of layers of protection. I should not die doing this. Of course, before I got down here to do this, I went up top and disconnected the battery, the negative terminal off the battery, so I don't electrocute myself. So having done all that and having said all that, I'm going to take this POS thing off and see what's underneath here. So hey, I decided to dip in the middle of the editing process of this video because I never really spoke at any point during the work the other day. Never really spoke too much in detail about how I figured out it was the alternator, what was the process for diagnosing it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the book explanation of how to check yours, and I'm going to tell you how and why I knew what I knew without even having to do what I'm about to do here. So your first thing you want to check with your charging system, your alternator and your battery, they go hand in hand. They work together. If you have a bad battery, it makes it difficult to diagnose your alternator and vice versa. So you have to try to figure out ways to isolate that. So one of the best ways to do that is to grab your multimeter. I'm trying to get a better angle on the display here. Grab your multimeter, and with the engine off and all the accessories and lights off and the key off and everything, just do a quick test, positive to negative terminal on the battery, and you should get somewhere in the neighborhood of 12.3, 12.5. I'm pulling 12.8 here. I just took it on a little trip, so maybe it's charged up a little bit better than it was the other day. The other day I was around 12.5, 12.6. So once you've done that, then you want to fire it up, let it run for a couple minutes, and then come back and do that exact same test. And with the engine running and the alternator turning, you should, of course I'm not doing that here, but with the engine running, the alternator spinning, you should get a reading right around 14. You can go up as high as as 15, but that's kind of unusual. On anything 15 or above, you really need to do some more checking, because you may have a problem with the voltage regulator. And in most vehicles these days, the voltage regulator is built into the alternator, so you're going to end up replacing the alternator anyway. If it's too low, if the reading with the engine running is lower than your static reading with the engine off, then you're probably looking at a problem with the alternator. There are some alternate things you can test. You can test for continuity between the positive terminal on the alternator up here to this positive terminal. God, I had trouble saying that. To see if maybe there's a resistance problem in that connection. Same thing, negative to negative.
negative battery terminal to negative connection at the back of the alternator, just to see if maybe you have a connection it's a wiring problem or a fuse problem or a fusible link problem. So those are the quick and dirty tests you can do. And then, if your battery is, just your static battery is less than 12.1, 12.2, take it in, have it checked, check the date, see when it was manufactured. Usually there's a sticker right here, if I can get my hand of the way. Oh, there it is, bright green sticker. That has the month and year that my battery was manufactured. So this thing is 16 months old and it's restoring 12.8. So I didn't do any of that. And how did I know that I didn't need to do any of that? Well, when I bought it, it was, the truck had just turned 12 years old. It was obviously well maintained, but it's still a 12-year-old truck, so you got to keep your eye out for stuff. And one of the things that I noticed is that once in a while, on odd mornings, just random, no pattern to this at all, I'd notice it at a traffic light. Once in a while, I'd have my turn signal on, and my headlights would just dim in time with the turn signal. And that told me that for whatever reason, the power in the system was a little insufficient. It didn't do it every day. It didn't do it more than once every couple of weeks. But it was something that in my mind, I'm like, okay, alternator, probably at some point in the future, gonna go. So then a couple of mornings ago, I got up, got ready to leave for work, started it up, and the sound from the engine was different. I'm going to take a side trip here real quick just to say, once a month, take your car out for a drive. Nobody in the car with you to talk to you or distract you. Radio off. It's just you and the car, and you're just listening to how things sound. And after a few months of doing that, you're going to become accustomed to how your vehicle sounds, so that when something goes whack, you're going to notice it and you're going to pick up on it. It's going to get your attention, and then you're going to start investigating. So with me, with most vehicles, there are 4 things you can look for. You can look for your air conditioner, you can look for your power steering, you can look for your water pump, you can look for your alternator. Those 4 are always driven by the belts that are on the front of your engine. So, so the first thing I did was I turned the air conditioner on. Didn't hear a change in sound. I also noticed that the pitch, the pitch of the sound, the new sound, the weird sound, fluctuated with the speed of the engine. I'd press the accelerator, pitch would go up, back off the accelerator, pitch would go down. So I knew it was something connected to the belts and something spinning in time with the engine. The next thing I did was took the steering wheel and kind of rocked it back and forth and to see if that made any change in the pitch of the sound, because if there was a problem with the power steering pump, that could have been an indicator right there that just changing that made a difference. The next thing I did is I played with the lights and the switches and the fan for the air conditioner, turn it on, everything I could think of to see if I could get the pitch to change. And it really didn't change all that much. Obviously it was running at the time and it was running okay, but there was still something wrong, and I wasn't really sure if, at that point I'm down to the alternator, I'm down to the water pump, and it's morning, it's dark. So on my lunch break, when I got back to the office from lunch, I left it running, popped the hood, took a look around, and what I'd looked for in the middle of the day when I had lighting was I checked to look to see if maybe I had some coolant dripping from underneath the water pump, and I didn't see any. So I knew something was going on, and it really didn't look like the water pump. It seemed more of an electrical thing. So it seemed like alternator was due. So I was thinking, alternator. If I'm lucky, it'll be water pump because it's cheaper. But whatever. So then a couple of days after that, I'm leaving the office, it started doing really crazy stuff. It was raining, so I had the headlights on. I turned the wipers on. The wipers were moving really slow. And then random lights started coming on the dashboard, like the warning indicator for the analog brake system of all things. That would come on, and then if I would accelerate or, sitting at a traffic light, just, throw it in neutral and give it a little gas, the light would go out. And I'm like, okay, electrical. So at that point, I pretty much decided that I didn't want to push it much further, and I just better go ahead and replace the alternator. And that's what I did. And when I fired it up with the new alternator, that weird noise had gone away. It's been running great ever since. So there you go. So, I guess the lesson is get to know your car. Get to know what it sounds like. Get to know the noises that it makes, the noises that are normal, so that when something unusual happens, it's going to get your attention, and you're at least going to be on the lookout for something. You may not know exactly what you're looking for, but you're going to be looking for something, and you're going to be on alert. And I got to tell you, that weird noise for the 2 days that I had it before I replaced the alternator, that weird noise had my attention. And even when I turn up the radio, turn on the radio to just kind of tune it out and ignore it, I could still hear it. And it was still bugging me, and it was talking to me, and it was saying, don't forget, there's some trouble coming. So, just one of those things. The older your vehicle is, hopefully, in the time that you've had it, if you've had it for a long period of time, you're already used to what it sounds like. But if you step into something like I did and buy a 12-year-old vehicle, get to know it as quickly as you can, so that when something like this comes up, you may not be able to, pinpoint it right away, but at least you'll be able to, do some, just do some thought process, some calculations, deductive reasoning or whatever, and say, okay, I need to watch for this, I need to watch for that. And then, you'll know when it's time. It'll tell you. Hopefully it doesn't strand you. And if you're less mechanically inclined and if you hear a noise that you're not used to hearing, at least take it to the mechanic that you trust and have them take a look. Explain what's going on, explain when it started doing what it's doing and why, and let them sort it out for you. And like I said, hopefully it's a mechanic that you trust, so they take care of it and don't rip you off. But okay, I just wanted to insert that because I really didn't touch on that too much the other day, because I was all up in changing the sucker out. So I did that, and everything's fine, and it's running great. So anyway, enjoy the rest of the video. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more as I put them up, subscribe. If you have questions, comments, snide remarks, comment section below. Go ahead and type away. Enjoy. Thank you.